So my very first time on Capitol, it was actually my second time walking into the building. I did one Capitol tour of the Capitol before this, but I was immediately entrenched in an environment where I was personally interacting with members of Congress. Realized very quickly once I moved over to the Senate side, not that the Senate is fantastic too, I would recommend anybody to work in Congress in either chamber, but I was a House person. The following summer, I got an internship in the White House Office of Legislative Affairs on the House team, which is essentially the bridge between the executive branch and the legislative branch. So almost an extension of my internship with Scalise, except now I had the perspective of the White House. And I felt even more excited about it because I was also then working with Democratic members, because most bills pass through Congress on a bipartisan basis. And Leg Affairs, you're required to have a strong legislative affairs office. You need to have relationships on both sides of the aisle. I was hired there when I graduated college the following year, so in 2019, on the House team again. And it really, I look back on that period with a lot of gratitude and fondness. I learned a lot in those months. Even I worked there through the first impeachment, not the second impeachment, the first impeachment though. It was really important, I thought, especially in that period. It was before the first impeachment was announced, but just to be able to have the perspective of seeing how the government can work. But I also attribute a lot of what I learned to the staff that were around me. At the time, the Office of Legislative Affairs had several Bush-era staffers who knew how the government could and should operate, not in the way of that it was attempted to be operated under in the Trump era. So I had a lot of people around me who were positive influences through a tumultuous period. And that's when I eventually developed, during the first impeachment, really close relationships with some of the president's strongest allies, including Mark Meadows, who I eventually worked for several months later after Mr. Trump was acquitted in the Senate.
Yeah, so